Hello and welcome to this video. I kind of introducing it as if it's a podcast, but it's not a podcast. It's a video because you're watching it. Of course you are. Hello, I am Philip from Run, Think, Shoot, Live. And joining me is Dolmo. Hello, Dolmo.
Hello.
Who are you?
Well,
tell the listeners about yourself.
I run a channel called Dolmo the Douglas, where I look at Half-Life 2 maps and mods, much like your, and play through them and look at basically level design aspects of them and what the mappers have done well and what they haven't done well. So basically, all my videos are made as if the mapper or modder is watching, so I can give them feedback, and hopefully we'll all get better and we'll help the source modding scene grow in this much late on from when Half-Life 2 and Half-Life was released. So yeah, that's my channel.
How long have you been doing that then?
Well, I've basically been reviewing and playing these mods for over a year now. Obviously I did stuff on my channel before that, which was basically just playing other games, but I really took an interest in playing the mods over a year ago.
All right, okay, good. So I'm sure the viewers have figured out what's happening. This is a video about MinimalismVille, and Dolmo is my fellow judge on this, and we're going to do this live. This is a live recording. Okay, we've restarted 3 or 4 times today because of technical issues, but we're going to do a live recording, and we are going to discuss each and every one of the entries, and then at the end, we're going to fight it out, duke it out to see who's the winner. So, what was your overall impression of the maps, Dolmo?
So yeah, there was basically a wide range of different maps. Some took the theme super seriously and just had white textures, which was really interesting, and a lot of them was done really well. Other ones tried to make more of a traditional Half-Life map and just have certain gameplay aspects. But overall, there was good ones and there were not so good ones.
We're going to talk about those. So what's going to happen is that both Dolmo and I, we're going to be sort of playing the entry that we're talking about. But the video that you're watching now has just got me playing it at a different time. So we might not sync it exactly. So we're going to play through as they were. So let's start with Refinery. So open up Refinery. And each person will start each one. So I'll start with Refinery, and then you can add, and then you can start with the next one. So my initial impression of Refinery was quite interesting. I thought to myself, okay, this looks kind of cool. Dev textures were allowed in the map, and I wasn't too worried about that. The layout looked quite interesting. There was all of these barrels and crates and exploding barrels. But that's where my interest kind of stopped in a way, because after that, it got boring. I mean, once you sort of generate the attacks from the Combine and you've killed them, there was nothing there. Now, I have to say, this was an unfinished entry. But I think that the author would have done a much better job of sort of telling people that it was unfinished. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel that, like you said, it was great that there was the inclusion of things like exploding barrels, but once you've killed, a Metro Cop once or twice, then it gets very, very tedious. And that's why there's so many ways in, like, you see in Half-Life 2 of dispatching of these enemies, like using a grav gun and one of these razor blades that you get in, like, Ravenholm, and tons of other ways. But here, it was literally just the exploding barrels and the pistol and anything else you could find. And
yeah, but at the same time, though, I mean, it was a minimalist. I mean, some of the maps that we're going to play later on, we're going to be praising the fact that you only had one map, one enemy and one weapon. But here, yes, it just didn't seem to work.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the layout isn't. It doesn't make sense because you've got these gates which open.
Yeah, did you figure out how they open?
It seemed to be after when you killed a certain amount. Now, I couldn't quite work out what that amount of the Metro Cops were that you had to kill, but basically, it would have been better if the player had been in some way notified that something had happened. It didn't even have to be that these gates were opening. just that something had happened and they had to go around looking for it.
So I would have improved this map by removing the barrels, the crates, and the exploding barrels, and having like a ton more of Combine, because I felt that the fact that they were above you and then they were behind you was pretty cool, and you could get up to the same level as the Combine, the Metroclops, sorry. But there was just it wasn't minimalist enough, but the layout had potential.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have verticality in battling, of course, but the map was too wide, too much empty dead space. I mean, it's good to have obviously just that space where there's not much going on. Obviously, probably not for the MinimalismVille maps, but here there was just too much of it, and yeah, the combat seemed very, what's the word, chunky, basically, where you've got these guys and then these guys come from over here randomly.
Yeah.
There was no structure to it, and it was quite tedious.
All right, that's fair enough. So we're probably both agreed this isn't going to be one of our top 3, is it?
No.
So we can move on to the next map. Let's move on to the next map, which is Downsized Escape. Right, why don't you start with that?
All right, so this map took on quite a traditional form. Obviously, it's got visuals, which obviously we're not caring much about visuals at all, but it's pretty traditional because you've got your the vent crawling, a simple puzzle, and some combat. It all happens too quick, and there's not really any hook to it. You know how like in music you get like a hook that really gets you into the song. There wasn't that version for of mapping here, because there was this when you drop into the toilet section and you've got to flush the toilet. It's too simple, if you know what I mean. Well, and then the crawling.
I mean, sorry, go ahead, go on.
Yeah, even though it's minimalist, it's too minimalist to be, as I said, fun. Because obviously that's what we're looking for. We're not just looking for a map, because if we only wanted minimalist maps, it would just be an empty room and that'd be it. We also want that element of fun in it. This didn't do enough to kind of get it to that level where I finished the map and thought, yeah, I'd like to play that again. Or
yeah, well, I mean, it suffers from the first problem that you're actually able to throw the barrel over the fence and you're stuck.
Yes.
If you do that, you're immediately stuck. That's the end of the map. I actually thought that the toilet puzzle was quite good, but the light was silly. There should have just been a sign which said, "Don't flush the toilet; it's going to overflow," or something like that. That would have been really nice for me. But the light kind of ruined it completely. And then
there's a oh, sorry, Carol.
No, go.
I was going to say there's a time and a place to use the lights, obviously on Combine consoles and all that, and they can be used quite well, but in that situation it just didn't make any sense, and I think your solution of having a sign would be much better. Anyway, carry on.
And then you go into the second room and you've got like the man-hacks falling from the ceiling, and that was sort of not connected, and I don't feel that the author did a good job of exploiting the idea of minimalism. That was all. So for me this wasn't such a great entry. It wasn't a bad map, but it just didn't do a good job of one thing or the other. So I'm happy to move on if you are.
Yes. I don't think I have anything else to say apart from that. If the combat section, like a good combat section, it would probably have to be made slightly more challenging. But that would kind of take away, I think, what the mapper was thinking would be minimalism. Yeah. So it's difficult to balance it with these things. But anyway, we'll move on. All
right. So that brings us on to Abstract, which of course is the first visual one that sort of takes a whole new level as such. I mean, Refinery had the dev textures, and then Downsized Escapes had regular textures. So you're initially, drawn to this blue point or blue button, blue light, and you walk towards it and you touch it and the door opens. And of course you've got these black lines, and this is pretty minimalistic. Even the crowbar's black. Then you've got a silhouetted civil protection. What were your thoughts?
Well, I think the whole mechanic, it's a simplistic mechanic, but a really useful one. And I feel, obviously, if the mapper had more time, they could have built on it. But it's still really useful because, like, how could you not use the blue orb to get out? And then obviously we see that further on, and also with the the way it looks. Yeah, I think it's generally a great take on minimalism, and
I agree. I mean, it doesn't have to be sort of black and white. I mean, it could have been just like one plain texture perhaps, but this just emphasizes it. And then you've got the shield and the ammo PowerPoints, which I thought was really nicely done.
yeah, I thought it was brilliant because as soon as you see them, obviously if you've played the Half-Life games before, you know exactly what they are.
I'm not even sure you need to have played Half-Life before to
Yeah,
have seen.
well, yeah, exactly, yeah.
I mean, that simple cross is used by pretty much everywhere. And then in the second room, you've got a puzzle. And you've got the puzzle, which is you've got to take the box, or the crate actually, and jump up to the next level. So it's getting slightly progressively harder. The combat hasn't been so hard so far. And if I say that, then it must be quite easy. A little repetitive in the sense that both of the corridors between the charging points look the same, but maybe that's minimalism again. And,
yeah.
And we're into that room with the ramps.
Yes. And again, just a simple jump over to the blue orb. It's nothing difficult, but it's still something that the player can do.
Yeah.
Something, instead of just having an open door there, that orb has been placed for you to go and interact with it.
Absolutely. And what works really well is nearly all of the enemies are up against the wall, which means their blood is now on the wall, and that's like a nice, backdrop, as it were. Not necessarily a backdrop, but it works really well in that way, more so than any other type of
environment.
Yeah. And then you're into the last room, and then the last room, of course, changes colour, red for danger, and you've got our friends, the hunters.
I feel this room could be widened a little. I mean, obviously it's super minimalistic, which is what they're going for, but in terms of a hunter battle, it's very, maneuvering.
There's not much space.
Yeah, there could be more space, not just because I'm bad and I like to complain about things, but just from a user-friendly perspective.
Yeah, and then you've got the big blue square in the corner, in the centre, and then that changes to the round orb, which is quite a nice touch. And then you're into the final room, and you just need to sort of smash the little orbs, don't you? I think that's what you need to do.
You push the button, and then they go around, and then
that's it.
I don't even know what this bit was, but it was
weird.
I was hoping something would happen, something like super cool, but it didn't in the end.
So your thoughts on this? I thought they did a pretty good job, and I can't remember the name of the author here, but I thought they did a pretty good job of interpreting the idea of minimalism. Simple textures, simple layout, simple walkthrough and doors open. Yeah, this is good. I like this.
Yeah, I agree. I think in terms of theme, it was good. It was, I think as much fun as you could probably get. I mean, with a map like that, and obviously introducing the orb mechanic, as I said earlier, it could have been used more, but obviously because of time, 50 hours, that was what we got. So I really liked that one.
Yeah, that was a good one. So that takes us on to Antguard. I remember this by Crowbar. Do you want to start with this one?
Yes, this one, I got really frustrated at this one, because immediately you just get completely punted across the room, and it's fairly simple to work out. Although the problem with this is that the NPC, the Guardian, it's not coded very well in the actual game, so it's quite unreliable for this sort of moving out the way, waiting for it to bash through.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to have a whole map based on that one mechanic, which is basically what this is.
It is, yeah. The idea though is great. I like the idea that you basically just have to get out of the way at the last minute, and you move on to the next level. But the implementation, I don't know. What I think might have been better would, instead of the antlion, I'm playing as we're talking, and I've died twice now.
Yeah.
What might have been better would be that the bullets from a weapon might have smashed the orange doors. and then you could just sort of avoid the weapons, and then not having a weapon yourself might not have been a problem.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, something that the mapper could have had more control over, because obviously, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
I believe the badly coded NPC is not the fault of the mapper, obviously. So
No.
if I
But
guess
if the
I don't
mapper
know.
has chosen to use it, then he's
Yeah,
got to take.
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Obviously, I think your solution with having a turret, a gun, something like that. So yeah, it's definitely a frustrating entry to
Now,
play.
I broke it. Now, what happens is, if you get to the big room with the 2 boxes, yeah, do you know where I mean?
Yes, yes.
If you
I
get
know
to this
exactly where
room
you mean.
and you get clobbered by the Antguard, he or she, I suppose, because it's a mummy, he or she will then punt you behind those 2 things, and you're stuck.
Yes.
And it happened to me, and that's pretty freaking annoying. And there we go. I managed to do it while I'm talking to you. Now, I suppose you could argue, oh well, that's just your own fault. But maybe they, Crowbar should have made them a little bit lower so that you could actually jump out from them. Or that
things like that do need to be thought about, basically.
Yeah. But anyway,
in
I think it was a great idea. I think there's potential in this idea, but of course, with only 50 hours, you're going to be limited to how much testing you can do. And visually, it worked quite well. You clearly got the orange. What might have been nice would have been that the Antguard burst through an orange door immediately, so you saw that that's how it worked. Maybe I'm being too simplistic. Do you think that it needed that at the beginning, or not?
Yeah, I'd never actually thought about that. I think that would definitely demonstrate the feature immediately, rather than placing you in front. Because at the start, I thought it was going to be a cutscene or some. Well, you know what I mean, a set
Right,
piece where
yeah,
you're going to get punted. So if it had broken, then you could have. I don't know. There could have been a door off to the side that's orange within field of view. But yeah, something like that.
Or just
would have
a
been much
column at the
better.
beginning. Just a column at the beginning. The Antguard crashes through it. You've got time to think, oh my god, I'm actually in this now, and then turn around and run like monkey. And you might have said, oh, okay, so he's got to hit the side. And anyway, so definitely not one of my favourite mods maps from this pack, but I think that there's a really clever idea that could, with a little bit more work out really well. You could almost build a whole mod where the player has no weapons or implements and has to use the environment and the enemies around it to progress. I think that could have been a really interesting mod. All right.
There we go. So we've given Crowbar his next big mod to work on.
We could have. Yeah, exactly.
After Mega City 1, it will be using the environment.
No weapons or something. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Shut up. And I don't mean you. I mean the next entry.
What? Oh, right.
So here we go. A couple of people, and I remember Crowbar complaining about this, was like, what the heck am I supposed to do? But I figured out quite quickly, although this map is... Oh, there we go. Okay, so it took a while to start. You've got this sign above the toilet. If you don't want maintenance knocking on your door, stop putting things down the toilet, landlord. All right, okay, well, there's nothing else that you can do. But wait. You can open up some cupboards, and there's stuff to put down the toilet. So, as far as the theme is concerned, and even the drawers open. I don't know whether you noticed the drawers, but all the drawers open.
Yeah.
There's things to do. You can sort of take the Chinese takeaway. You take the bleach or whatever it was, and then you take the dancing hula girl, and so I thought that this was quite an interesting entry. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's probably one of the weirdest entries I've ever seen in a Ville, but it was... I got a laugh out of it at the end just because of how bizarre it was.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
As in terms of actual gameplay, yeah, it's this... In a sentence, it's put 3 items into a toilet. That's
minimal, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that is like the fundamental minimalist, the most minimalist you could get.
Yeah. Pick something up and drop it. I mean...
Yeah.
It was clever, but actually I got this, like, really early. I mean, I announced it on the Friday about, I think it was 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. my time, and I got this on like Saturday morning. I was like, oh my God, how short must this one be? So this person didn't even use more than 12 hours. So 12-hour mapping challenge. That would have been the winner. All right, next one then. Should we move on? Next one.
Yeah.
The test. Would you like to start?
Yeah, so obviously these are mechanics that you see a lot. Obviously, I'm going to have to cite Portal and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it was a rip-off, but it was very much based on that. And this one was for me pretty fun to play. Although I'm not sure how minimalistic it is. I mean, obviously there's not a lot of textures, rather detail to it, but that doesn't really matter. I mean, it's difficult to say about this one.
Well, I'll take over then. I thought that it did a terrible. I thought it was a terrible entry for the competition. I thought it was a great map, but I don't think it was minimalist at all. I don't think you could even say, oh yeah, but simply putting boxes on the frame is the minimum that it require. I mean, I don't think so. I just think it was if this was a Puzzleville, it might have won, but it wasn't. It was Minimalistville, and it's just definitely not minimalist in my opinion. So I'm like pretty against this, but simply because I don't feel it did a good job for the challenge. That's why.
As I was saying at the start, I wasn't sure about this one. Like I was, and I guess I still am on the fence. You're right about it not being minimalist, but then I'm sure people do have cases to argue that it is like really minimalist. So it's got like, it introduces like the stuff with the AR2, and then it becomes a bit more, a lot of thought, it includes it. What was the word? Yeah, it makes the player think a lot, and it certainly is fun to play. But obviously, if we're taking it's not minimalist, then obviously that's going to have a big factor on.
For me, anyway.
Yes.
I mean, it introduced the mechanics quite well. I mean, the puzzles were quite nicely designed. We got this sort of jumping mechanic where the colours come up and you can sort of fly for a bit. I mean, I really struggled to get that working on some of the maps, but it was fun to play, but I don't think of it as minimalist. Sorry. Move on, or do you want to say more?
No, I mean, as I said, that one was probably the map where I was really thinking about whether or not it would have a chance, But no, I've got nothing else to say at the moment.
All right. Okay. All right then. So that moves us on to the next one, which is rooms.
Rooms, yes.
So I thought this was quite good because you get the suit right at the beginning. You've got these rooms, and the door opens when you sort of ask it to open, by using the use key. You've got a couple of weapons, and you just move on. And then suddenly you've got a zombie. Chop the zombie in half. It did what it was trying to do, which was, just do some simple things. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel that it was. The idea was good, but the delivery wasn't. It could be, basically. I like the idea of having all these different ways, because it's definitely 10 times much better than going into a room, shooting a combine, into another room, shooting a zombie. So there is there's a bit later on when there's like barrels and you've got to throw a nade in, and also like these turrets. So it is giving the player different ways. Yeah, a lot more options than we see in maybe just a traditional map where all it is just, shooting the combine. But I feel that, especially towards the end, the combat becomes very unuser-friendly, basically. And,
that last room. You're talking about the last room, aren't you?
Yeah, basically.
I mean, that big open room.
I mean, there was also a lot, I don't feel that the rooms could be smaller or anything, but there could be, definitely more variation in them, which is difficult because that's me coming from a place where I could never make something as elaborate as what this does. Obviously, with the you get like the combine room where you've the head,
Yeah.
But that's it, and then there's the two combine which aren't under it, which seems a bit pointless. I would have only had the two combine there, the two combine soldiers.
Okay.
But yeah, otherwise it is very simplistic and minimalist.
I mean,
but also is a lot of fun.
It does what I ask people to do. Just build a simple
Indeed.
map. But is it fun to play? I mean, of course, we want it to be fun, and there's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not. Yeah, it's
no, go on.
Also this zombie about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like 9 zombies in the same room. It's not fun to take out 9 zombies one after the other.
No.
So I guess that also comes into combat. But going back to like the puzzles and stuff, it's good that there's all these different ways. So yeah.
Yeah. The general concept, a simple room after room after room after room, and if you keep making things interesting, then fine. But it kind of lost its way. It wasn't sure what it was trying to do besides the basic concept of a single room. So okay, next one is destroy the generator. Is it my turn to start or your turn? It's your turn.
Yes, you. Or is it? Okay. This one has very little gameplay in it. Meaning the combat is very thought-provoking.
If I was in a bad mood,
basically all it includes is.
Yeah, go on. Have I lost you? Are you there? Hello?
Yeah. You push a button and yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so we seem to be
experiencing
a little bit of lag here. If I was in a bad mood, I'd have called this Prospect, because it's like this combine thing, and I'm being horrible to Richard now, and I really don't mean to, but it's just this: push a button, open a door; push a button, open a door; fight some combine; push a button, open a door; fight some combine. And that was one of my big problems with that particular map, which I won't mention anymore, I promise. But yeah, so no, it didn't really do anything for me. For you?
Yeah, it was too simplistic. It wasn't fun. The battles weren't fun or thought-provoking, and I think at the very end, it's atrocious how like all of these combine just run at you.
Yeah.
Combat should never be like that. You should always be separated from the combine, and you should really think strategically about how you're going to take on the battle and just running at them.
You've got no choices here. You just have to run forward, essentially, don't you? I mean, I'm hanging back as we're talking about this, but they come from both sides. There's no idea where they'd come from, and yeah.
Exactly, the map doesn't allow for any fun or thought-provoking combat, so there's not a lot more you can say about this. At least I can't say any more other than the combat needs to be closely thought about, and there needs to be more than just pushing buttons and moving through the level, even for a MinimalismVille map.
Yep, absolutely. Antichamber. Now, I enjoyed this a lot. I felt that it made me want to play. I was like really interested in what's happening here, what's going on, and it did a fairly good job with the minimalist theme. You've got it sort of after you sort of see the G-Man disappear into his white, you're in this white area, and I can't even. There we go. I was lost for a second, and then you press a button, and you get some more buttons to press, and then I can't remember where we go now. So it starts off incredibly minimalistic, and then it got better, but I don't know. I pressed the button, but I can't remember where to go.
Is there 2 buttons you've got to push? Or 3? Something like that, I don't know.
Oh, okay, here we go.
It doesn't make it clear where you have to go after that single puzzle.
Yeah, there's a button on the other side.
Oh, just because it's white, you don't know.
Yeah, that was a problem. But I like how the lines get drawn, and you're sort of in these rooms, and and now I'm stuck again. I'm playing with the sound off, so this should be quite interesting. I wonder if this one really... Okay, now I'm in the black and white room. I've gone from the white room to the black room. And now I'm going up in the elevator. All right, so that maybe took longer than it needed to. And there's a G-Man sighting if you're quick, if you're lucky. And then you're in the main area with the house that explodes, which is pretty cool. I mean, at this point, I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. But now I'm playing a second time. I'm wondering, what is this all about? I mean, of course, the G-Man's talking to you, but... And then the gameplay starts. Okay, so here we go. So it's almost been like a teaser to get you here. And the thing that I do remember is about slowing the time down. So this, of course, is very similar to Abstract. Yes?
Yes, it uses orbs and black lines.
And black lines. And... what do I do? Oh, okay, yeah, and then you pull that thing down, they pull the orb down and it turns upside down. Right. So what were your what were your overall thoughts? I thought this was awesome, really.
I thought, again, the concept was really good, and it, you know, this puzzle with the slowing down time of the orb?
Yeah.
That could have had a few more uses and it would have still been a minimalist map. So if it had focused after you do that one where you stop the the rotor, if it had a few more puzzles where you slow down time, you use that to your advantage to complete a puzzle, then it would have been, a lot more, it would have seemed more like, fun gameplay rather than going to the bit with the combat afterwards, which I didn't like. As soon as you've done that and you crawl through that tiny space, the map just gets, it's much worse from there, and that's how it remains till the end, basically. But yeah, the bit before that with the two orbs and also the house, I mean, it's slightly too short to have kind of an intro sequence like that, but I still think it's cool.
Yeah.
With the house.
You're right. I mean, it's a map of sort of two halves. It's got the gameplay section. And then you've got the sort of the intro section, as it were, and I know that people felt that it maybe it didn't do a good job of being minimal, and upon reflection, all it really did was it just used just got blown up there, sorry. All it really did was just use these white textures, and was that enough? I could argue with that, and I think you're right. I think that if it had maybe used that slowing down time a little bit more as the main premise, that might have been enough. And did you use it for the hunters at all, by the way?
No, I didn't, because you have the upgraded gravity gun, which is overpowered against everyone. And I've always said that the upgraded gravity gun should basically be by itself. It should be a weapon used when you don't have any other weapons, as it was in Half-Life 2. Because obviously, I'm sure there's exceptions that could be made, but basically, it's in a group of its own in terms of using it. And in here, you've got like all these weapons which I didn't use. I for ease, I just used the upgraded gravity gun because that's definitely the most easiest way to take out the hunters. And I think including these orbs that slow down time was a cool idea, but again, not necessary because of the weapons.
Okay, so you're not so enamoured with this as I was.
No, as like with the last map, good concept, bad delivery.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on to the next one then, which is Defence in Depth. This is by Rob Martens. Your turn to start.
Yes, this one just was completely confusing. I went round for ages killing all the zombies with a bike.
Yeah, me too.
Which, let's be fair, it's definitely not fun. It's cool at the first couple of times, and then you see how many there are, and it becomes a very tedious and annoying task, and very unuser-friendly as well. And in terms of the actual, the progression, the pushing the use key on the
sort of the
I don't even know what they are.
People.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not the the greatest method of adding
It
gameplay.
might have been better if it had been like the Abstraction, where you just walk up to it, and it did what it wanted to do. It sort of worked.
Yeah.
That might have been enough. I don't know whether the use key was necessary. But I like the pools. I liked having the pools to be able to regenerate.
Mhm.
The bike could have been something else, maybe a cabinet that was a bit harder, that took less effort to kill the enemies. Again, I think this is another one that I enjoyed more than you. Did you finish it?
No, I couldn't find the way up. I know how to finish it,
Okay.
but when I recorded my initial playthrough, which isn't up at the time of recording this at the moment, you'll see I just walk about here for ages, and I find the solution, but I couldn't find the way up to the top.
The next level.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, the idea is that we've been pressing these people. We've been using our use key to press those people, and then when you get to the big white person, you use that as well. But it isn't as clear as it could be.
Yeah.
I do agree with that. What about the two? Sorry, just trying to get up to the next level. What about the two Easter eggs?
If you're talking about the writing, that's pretty cool. I'm not sure what other Easter egg you're referring to.
No, I'm just talking about if you get to... There are two posters.
The posters, yes.
If you touch both posters, the big person changes colour, and there's something else to sort of see as well. But we won't spoil it in the...
Yeah.
So there's that. The second poster is incredibly hard to get to. But okay, so I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it did a fairly good job visually. It's obviously very minimalistic, no doubt about that. But it could have been confusing. I mean, I won't sort of argue against that. Again, another one that I think I enjoyed more than you.
Yes, I would agree.
I quite like that exploring though. But if you don't really like exploring, then maybe it's not the sort of fun thing for you.
I think the exploring bit's probably the best bit. But what's happened here is obviously he's just placed these zombies in for the sake of zombies. Killing them does nothing. They're just there. You've got to kill them with a bike, which adds to that kind of what's this for? You're not achieving anything. So if it was exploring, if there was the zombies or less zombies and they were placed in places that you actually got to these coloured figs, then it would have been much better rather than just having a room full of zombies that you have to take out, and then for you to go and do the other stuff. Obviously, there's the zombies up here, but it's still.
I think we both agree that if we took out the zombies and the bike, and we turned this into an exploration, jumping type area, that might have made more sense. And instead of two sort of sets of it, if each time you pressed a different colour, I mean, I know it happens with the first three and then with the second three, but one sort of set of a group of 6 or 7 colours, that might have made more sense.
Yes.
And then maybe the door disappeared. I don't know. But I did like the basic idea, and I did like some of the implementation. But I agree with you, the zombies just confused the issue.
Yes.
All right. Next one. Nova Perspektive. Is it my turn or your turn?
It's your turn.
All right. This was freaking awesome, wasn't it? Come on, tell me that you like this one.
Yeah. Honestly,
right.
yeah.
So initially, my thoughts were, well, okay, this looks a bit weird, and then you sort of move around and you see these little steps, and you think, okay, that's kind of weird, and then you go up and you use the combined viewing thing, and it moves around, and then you get like an indication, that flash, and then you move away, and the steps are huge, and it's like, oh my god, that kind of is for me. A portal type moment when you realise what you can do with the portal gun, and your mind is like, oh, there must be so many possibilities of gameplay for this. So absolutely fantastic. Absolutely. You tell me.
Well,
What were you
as
thinking?
you said, there's so many different possibilities, but sadly, because it was part of a 50-hour mapping challenge, there was only so all these things in. So the first two are really good. Like the first room is very good for just learning the mechanic. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's simple. Second room adds a bit more in. Obviously, you've actually got to think about which one you go to first. Again, very simple, but it still gives you that sense that you've cracked the puzzle. And then the third one is like I thought, this is just amazing where you move about. You've got to the perspective, and that was even better. But then after that, it's over. So
Yeah, it's like
I think time was the
issue
factor
there.
that, yeah.
I have the impression that the author is going to extend this, and I sort of emailed him and said, look, this is so good, you cannot just leave it now. You have to make something bigger. And I think he's seriously considering that. So is it minimalistic though?
Yes. It's minimalistic in the sense that the only, there's no extra unnecessary factors.
Yeah, okay. The mechanic is simple.
Yeah. The only things that are in the map are the things you need to progress, basically.
Yeah, I think that the whole game could be made from this. I really do. Doing things in the right order. I mean, most puzzle games, at least first-person puzzle games, will be comparable to Portal. People will always be saying, "Oh, that's got like a Portal idea about it," but I don't think you can avoid that. What will be key for me is if the author decides to continue this, is the art behind it. The mechanic is solid. It's a solid mechanic, and there are probably variations on it. Like some of the items can only last for a certain period of time. Some of them can only be done in certain orders. But you've got to get the right artwork, and if you get the right artwork, this could be really successful. I mean, like a whole indie game. So yeah, okay. So we're both impressed with that one. Good.
Yes.
All right then. Next one is Gauntlet. Your turn.
Okay, so this was a fairly oversized map. You've got the four kind of arenas, I'll call them,
Yeah.
and each one of them. It's good that each one of them gets hard, but the combat itself just isn't fun. Obviously, you've got these mine things that you push the button and explode, but over all the times I played them, I just never used them. I was never in a position to use these exploding platform things. So overall, I didn't think it was very fun to play
Okay.
this.
Well, let me just stop you and say that I've only just realised that these buttons exploded the platform. I
Right.
thought that they just sort of exploded things downstairs because I was never looking at the platforms when I pressed the buttons. I mean, I thought that they were things that needed to be pressed just to open the door.
Yes,
So
that's
that was
happened my first time. It wasn't clear what was happening when I was pushing the buttons.
no. And that's a shame because that's actually quite a nice mechanic. But I mean, I didn't realise that until this moment, us talking about it. And I did think to myself, well, I wonder why that surface is different from the others. And do you know how you progress? Is it because you have to kill everything in the level?
Yeah, everything in
Right.
that specific arena has to be killed, and then obviously you've got the red lights, the traffic lights by the door. Once that's gone to green, you
Yeah.
know that you go through.
Yeah.
Which the first couple
That's
of
clear.
times I didn't know that. I actually was stupid, and I thought pushing the button would open the door, and I was like, why is it green when I've not pushed the button yet?
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
a lot more
There's
could
some.
have been done to explain what was going on, even like minorly, just so the player and the map was on the same page as each other. So the player knows, right, I've done that, time to progress.
Yeah. I don't think it was particularly minimalistic. I think there
No.
was like lots of enemies. There was a repetition of the basic arena, but I don't know. I wasn't particularly impressed with the implementation. It almost looked like this was like a multiplayer map,
Yeah, a kind of impression, and to be fair, I never used the whole arena. I always stood at the entry point, took down all the enemies, and then just walked straight forward into the next section, apart from the last one with the chopper and the airboat, where obviously I kind of you have to move about a bit. Yeah, you can't just stand there. So fun in any way.
No. Interesting mechanic, probably not minimalistic enough. I mean, if that was the only way of killing enemies, and that was used in an interesting way, like you had to draw the enemies in each time, they didn't just come running, you had to draw them in. In fact, it's just crashed. Oh no, it didn't. Then that would have been. I might have been more impressed with that if it had been that way. But it wasn't. It was like lots of different ways of killing them, and there was too much going on.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next one then, which is contrast. My turn or your turn?
Your turn.
I like this. I didn't like the beginning because it took too long to get started. I mean, I'm starting it now, and I got no sound on because I didn't want it to, overwrite what we're recording. But it just took too long, and I don't think it needed. Oh my God, what's going on?
I think. Sorry. I was just going to say, I think that's not Gordon, Dr. Kleiner talking or something.
Yeah, it is. Like, oh my God, where is he gone and stuff like that. I don't think it needed that.
Yeah.
I don't think it needed that. The basic mechanics of pressing different colours to get different buttons to go up and down seemed like a really good idea to me. I do. I think that this is a nice minimalist way of doing things. Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, definitely. This forced the player to think about what they were doing. Even if you went the first couple of times and pushed any random, pole or lever, we'll call it a lever.
Whatever we want to call it,
you kind of, everything formed, and then you managed to work it out, so that to the point where you wanted to get to the end, and you were like, well, obviously it's simple, red goes with red, yellow goes with red. So yeah, it was very fun, and I had a lot more fun playing this than many of the other maps that, had a lot going on. And this was minimalistic as well, Yeah,
it was. And I don't think it needed these basic primary colours. You could have probably done it with something a little bit more subtle. But of course the author wanted to make it as minimalist as possible. I'm not sure about falling off into the white was a good idea, because you simply start again. So I have to question whether that was needed at all. But I suppose there needs to be some form of, well, you need to look where you're going, otherwise you can end up falling. But this is not the winner for me, but it was better than most of the entries as far as interpreting the basic idea of the theme is concerned. So we both liked this one, didn't we?
Yes. I don't think it has much replay value in it once you know it, but I'm sure if it could be updated to have more levels. Obviously you couldn't have done that in this challenge, so for in terms of the challenge, it was minimalistic and fun.
Yeah, and it could be extended into something bigger. I mean, this easily could be set up in a combine base, and these buttons do, they start engines which lift the player up. So as a basic mechanic, it could be extended into other areas. So,
I always try and encourage the mappers to build on ideas. Obviously, as you were saying with the Nova Perspektive one, that the mapper was thinking of building on that one. Obviously, it'd be great if this one maybe could.
I agree.
Default. Yeah. So
this was good. Yeah, I'm happy with this one. All right, next one is Warp. Your turn.
So yeah, this one has a game mechanic where you can remove things and not remove things, but it isn't used very well.
You can say that. I thought it was really good.
I think it could have been used much better, because obviously at the start you can see that there's just these floating guns in the air. Obviously you know that there's going to be combine, and at the start it is, it's a lot of good ideas but not done very well. Again, and it's good how you can remove the stuff and not remove the stuff, but it's just not done in a manner where it's very fun at all to play.
Wow,
If you know
I'm
what
really
I mean.
surprised you say that, because I thought that it did a really good job, especially with the hunters a
Really?
little bit later on. Yeah, I mean,
I wasn't sure about the hunters at all.
oh
I
my
thought
God, I love the hunters when you
having
sort of get there.
a field of 4 hunters and trying to get them to walk over these things is a very hit or miss way of doing it. So again,
Okay.
maybe it's the AI that causes this to flop, but and as I said, the idea's good, but the delivery was I think very poor and could have done more.
Wow. Okay. All right. Oh, I just fell through. Oh, I'm dead. All right. Well, I mean, it's got auto saves in the right place, so and that's important. And it uses the dev textures very well because there's like only a few choices, so that's very clear. But yeah, I'm dead again. Damn it. I thought that the part with the hunters is very reminiscent of what Crowbar did in one of his entries, where you can fall through the glass, but they can't.
Yes, that was mega structure. Yeah.
Mega structure, and this for me is absolutely fantastic, because you could play this without shooting anything. I know the combine at the beginning would be really tough, but you could run past them. And that was like the pure essence of that. In many ways, I think that if this had less fighting in it and more about turning on and off the warp, then that would have been pretty clever. But I'm surprised that you didn't enjoy it. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, it was just that the hunters, at least twice before when I played it, they just wouldn't go on these things. I would put it, and they would seem to, like, you know how like it's kind of grey when there's a covering over them. They would just seem to avoid that completely, and they just charge for you wherever you were. Even if you were standing on the other side, they would go round.
Right.
And
Okay.
and then they charge you, and then it got very cramped in kind of the area. So yeah, I can see your
I didn't have any trouble with them. In fact, now I'm replaying it now, and they're not appearing at all.
Yeah, I found that bug. If you run past them too quickly, they just won't spawn at all.
Okay,
but I mean, that's...
Yeah, we can't complain too much, considering it's like a 50.
That wasn't the reason why I didn't like it. It was just the fact that the hunters were playing up a bit.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I see that you're correct with the fact that you can get rid of them. You know,
I mean, I didn't have any trouble when they appeared. I didn't have any trouble. I really didn't. So I thought it was a really nice mechanic. Maybe the author tried to do too many different types of situations, and more of them could have been to do with seeing the enemy, not seeing the enemy, dropping the enemy. But I'm kind of putting this in one of my top 3s. So we're going to have a big fight about this at the end. So
all right,
let's move on then. The Omals KY. All right. Is my turn or your turn? Are you there, Dolmo? Hello?
Yes, I am. You hear me? Hello. It's your turn. Yes.
Right. So, visually interesting. No doubt about that. It's like a couple of, maybe even only one texture. No, there's more than one. But there's only a few textures. You've got some Easter eggs to find. You've got to find the gnomes. There's 3 gnomes to find. You can die, which is fine, which is understandable. You sort of fall off, no problem. You've got the flying Metro Cops. I liked it, but it was more weird than minimal. Some people complained it was too hard, but I didn't find it that hard. And in general, I say to myself, well, if I can do it, then anybody can do it. What do you think?
I think it again. it was very not very user friendly, basically.
Okay.
Because you've got how the Combine are flying, or the Metro Cops are flying about on these hoverboard. Against the sky, they're super difficult to spot. Combat was it happened too quickly. It didn't give the player a chance to stop and strategically take on combat. It's not like strategically as in you're sitting down writing a plan about how you're going to do it. It's just these quick a quick thought, right, how am I going to do this? I see there's that guy over there. I could take him down with this, blah, de blah, de blah. So, yeah, it kind of happened too quickly, and that, I guess, detracted a lot from its weirdness.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it was pretty... Whoa, just fell off again. It was pretty weird, but I thought that besides maybe the hover guys, which were quite difficult at times, that general feel and look of it was just this, almost, mist type thing. Is it a puzzle? Is it a combat? Where is it that I need to go?
Oh yeah, it was the look and
enjoyed
feel of it that I liked. That was the bit that I thought that this map succeeded on. It's just the combat and I guess yeah, the combat and
okay. I mean, the combat
being on user
with the hover people was quite difficult, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I like the backtrack shortcut. That was nicely done. I didn't like the lift that takes you up to the top because that took me ages to find that, and it was like, what? Why is that one moving but the other one didn't move? My problem with the hoverboard people is much less than other people's. I mean, I wasn't too worried about them. I mean, I know I play on a lower level, but anyway.
Yeah.
So you're not as impressed as I was. Well, we're not. We've got lots of different views on these things, haven't we?
No, I would say it just.
Go on.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say it failed on the combat being unuser friendly. That was kind of where the map flopped for me.
Okay. Grey Assault.
Yes, this one I didn't like.
No, neither did I.
There's too many enemies. In fact, the whole thing is just killing enemies, and I think I've mentioned before that killing enemies, there has to be a lot of different ways instead of just shooting. And yes, there are these you do unlock the different weapons as you go, but it doesn't change the fact that it's not fun to kill that many enemies.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I did not. I quite like the idea of it, and I'm sure there's a few people who thought that this one was absolutely fantastic because they enjoy this basic arena type standoff, like never ending. I mean, it's not never ending because you do finish.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it never did anything for me. I was like, nah. It looked quite nice, and I did like the idea of the sky will always help you, but I don't like never-ending style arenas and where you're just stuck in one place. I play single-player maps and mods because I like to explore. I like to have, interesting stories told to me and see things from different perspectives. And this didn't sort of do that. So I'm happy to just move straight on.
Yeah, I like everything you said is basically the same for me. So, yep.
All right, moving on. Next one. Color cues. So this is by Nika 107, and you sort of start off left mouse button shoot. I don't like it when when mappers tell you which button to use. For example, warp said use E to warp, and I don't have E as my use key. So I think that mappers should never assume what keys people have. I mean, I suppose most people have left mouse button to shoot. I do. I suppose that they do that, but you could just put use to go on to the next one. Now, my first mini argument with Nika was that if you jump off the car at the beginning, you die. And his argument was, yeah, but if you jump off a train, you're going to die. But I'm not on a train. I'm in a video game. Why are you going to kill me for something so simple? You sort of stop me from getting to other areas. I think that this would have, I know I'm being picky, but I don't think there was any need for me to just die there. Just play a clip and let me move on. Anyway, so I like the style. The art style here is good.
Yeah.
That plain colour. It's very simple. Now, back in 2006, I wrote an article on my website which was colour for movement, and what I was suggesting was that it would be really cool to play a mod where the only things in colour are the things that are moving. And I'm not suggesting that Nike saw that, because it's like, you know, lots of people can have the same ideas, but it seems to sort of do that. You know, the combine of red against the grey, or it's not even grey, is it? It's like a browny background.
Yeah.
And then you go into inside and it's a grey background. So I liked it. I did. You?
Yeah, I actually thought this was actually quite a smart entry. Well, up until the end. But just,
Okay.
you know, it's got, you know, gameplay fundamentals that you need. Just, you know, the crouching under stuff. Again, it has the left mouse button on the door as you break it at the start, but that's side bit. It's all very clear on what you have to do. You've mentioned about the enemies being the only thing that is red, but when you get into the final room,
Everything's red.
I've
lost you.
Everything's red. It's like, as I've said before, but I think user friendly. This isn't user friendly. It's like we're picking out the, you know, the combine soldiers, seeing where they are.
No,
and the thing is, you walk up to this, and they just spawn behind you, just completely randomly. No explanation.
And with that box, why is that box not appearing? Why does it take 3 or 4 presses to actually appear? You know, when you're supposed to put damn it, sorry. You're supposed to put the explosives, and it sort of disappears. And you're right. I mean, it should have been a green or something. Yeah, and I'm dead now because I didn't see the enemies. It's a nice concept, and I love the fact that you've got like the 40 seconds to run to the back of the train, and you know, it's sort of talking to you. We expect you to do this, but I don't know. I might have preferred a warehouse or something where you just had to go in and go out. Did the train add anything to it? Yeah, maybe, because it's got the vibrations, but
I think it has a good atmosphere for it being or kind of a good, you know, very clearly you're on a train, and this is your mission. It's cool, basically, but you know, just with the whole time to run back now, and it says it across the screen, and then kind of like, well, it's yeah, it took me a while to work out, basically, but that might just be me and not the actual map.
I managed to get back on the first try.
Did you?
And in general, I feel that if that's what happens, then it's too easy.
I got shot on the way back a couple of times.
Okay.
But I have played again. I did make it back, so.
So we feel it was let down by that sort of the ending where everything is red, and I'm sure that Nike made a conscious decision to do that. I'm sure. I don't think it was like, oh, it was a mistake, it's too late to change it now. I think he that's the way he wanted it, but I have to question that design choice.
Obviously, because it's an important room, that's where you're aiming for. Obviously, you want to give it a bit of character, but making it red is not the way, you know, to do it. And I don't know how you would do it. I mean, it's easy for, you know, me to sit here and say, oh yeah, that's bad. You know, you really have to be a creative person. So obviously as you said, seemed like the best solution at the time. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next one.
Next
no,
one.
I've lost you. Yeah. Now, is it my turn or your turn?
I think it's my turn.
Do you mind if I start in this case?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right, I was so angry with this entry at the beginning. It was like, okay, this is just stupid. I mean, I walk around here. I've got no problem walking around. Visually, I thought it did a really good job. Okay, you sort of walk through the pipes, which is a little, those like cables, which is a little bit annoying. And I sort of walked around once, and I thought, okay, well, this is quite interesting. And then when I got to the beginning again, it was like, okay, well, that's a bit silly. And I stopped. And of course, now I realise that you've got to go around 3 times. And the more I play it, the more I feel that this map maybe did a better job of interpreting the actual theme than anybody else.
Interesting. Yeah, I would say that this map makes you think a lot, if you know what I mean. It kind of, you're kind of going through it, you're like, yeah, it's minimalistic. Wait, is this the start again? And then you keep going round, and I feel it could have added more, but what were you going to say before I rudely interrupted you?
No, you didn't rudely interrupt me at all. I mean, basically, I felt that I should have been told that I needed to go around more, and I sort of had a bit of a discussion with the author, and he was like, I know that a lot of people are not going to get it, but I didn't make it for those type of people. I made it for the people who did get it, who realised that it was different and they had to go around a few times. And I was like, okay, well, fair enough then. If you've targeted it towards a certain amount of people or a certain type of person, and I was one of those people who simply stopped playing because I thought that that was it. That's all he made, was just like one map that you just went around and around. That's fair enough. And I do feel that he should have done a little bit more to show the players that there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then it might have been better. But the people who managed to figure it out for themselves, you know, they got like, wow, this was quite interesting. So it's grown on me. I don't think that there's enough interaction for it to be the winner, but it did a fantastic job of minimalism. It did.
Yeah, I think a lot more could have been done with kind of the atmosphere of it, and a lot of sounds could have been put in. You know, you kind of get that on edge feeling. It's not so much a scared feeling that you get when playing a horror game, but kind of just that uneasy feeling where you're going round and then you get to the bit again and you're like, what's going on here, you know? And I went through that thought process, and I was hoping it would keep going round and some weird stuff would start happening, but you know, it ended after 3 times. But I was hoping that the mapper would play more with, as you said, the things changing and make the sections more definitive, that you definitely know that you're on, your things have changed, basically.
Yeah, if I'd have come round the first time and there was only one of those pipes instead of 2, I would have been like, oh, okay, now this is really cool. But it takes you a couple of times around to actually realise, okay, that ladder wasn't there before, or this room is slightly different from last time.
Mm-hmm.
So clever, but perhaps too clever. Because when we play maps and mods in Half-Life, we're expecting just to run around and shoot and jump and stuff. And maybe this was so far out there that a lot of people didn't get it. I certainly didn't. You know, a little embarrassed to say that on YouTube, but I didn't get it the first time. And I only got it when I read people saying, oh, I really like the ending with the door. And I was like, what ending? I just went around. Oh, no, you have to go around a few times. It was like, oh, God, I'm an idiot. So, anyway, next one. Cuboid.
All right.
Right, I did the last one, you do
All
this
right.
one.
So this one introduces a fairly basic mechanic. That's not bad. You know, you've got the red glass that you've got to break, and it makes it clear what you have to do. At least that's what I gathered from it. You know, you break the glass, you know, the gate opens.
Yeah.
So it was fun, but well, it was fun to an extent, but it could have introduced more. Because I mean, I was liking it when you got to like the bit. I think there's a bit with a grenade. You throw a grenade at it, it breaks, and it gets slightly more complicated. But I feel like it could have gone slightly further, and it wouldn't have, you know, made it not minimalistic. It would have kept exactly the same style. It would have been, you know, it would have kept the same pacing. But yeah, that's what I think, and it's not very much I know, but
yeah, I was less impressed with this, I think, than maybe some other people were. I mean, I like that idea of just, you know, breaking that glass, it drops down the force field. But then there's a time when you're sort of up against like elites, and all you've got is like a pistol, and it was like, really, that's quite hard.
Well, yeah, again with this one, as a lot of other ones we've talked about today, the combat is what takes it down a lot more. Because I mean, there should never be a point in any Half-Life 2 mod where you walk into a room and there's like 4 Combine or Metro Cops or any enemy just standing there waiting to attack you. It's not fun or thought-provoking. So
no, there's not much sort of thinking, as you say, thought-provoking. There's no thinking involved. So an interesting mechanic, not so good implementation. But
yeah.
But as we've said a few times already, 50 hours, you've got to take that into account. Of course you do. You know, with only 50 hours, you can't complain too much, can you?
Well, not too much, but then you could think, well, they did, or just in a example, oh, this person did this thing over here in their map when they could have spent that time
else, yeah.
slightly adjusting this thing. And yeah, I guess if the combat here, obviously it's not difficult to put in 3 Combine Elites just standing there, but if more time had been put into actually think up a puzzle there at the end, like a really, you know, one that required you to think and maybe backtrack a little.
Throw the grenades in different ways.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Instead of just placing 3 Combine Elites, then it would have been much more rewarding and just better in general. So
yeah. So for me, not so interesting. So on to the next one, which is Cluster. I quite like this. I like the idea. It's a jumping puzzle, which in general people should not put in anything that they want me to be the judge of, because I'm pretty bad at jumping. But I thought this wasn't too hard. It was built from a very few set of textures and ideas, and you can progress quite quickly. The checkpoints didn't work for me. I didn't manage to get some of those checkpoints working. I don't know about you. I got to one point which was too hard. I think you have to jump and then you have to jump sideways or something, and I could not do it. So I had to cheat to finish this. I don't know about you. Did you?
I didn't have to cheat. I don't know. Maybe it's just that I have done a lot of parkour maps in the past. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I think this was a fairly simplistic one. That I actually found myself playing it again and again, because first time I tried it, I used quick saves.
Okay, yeah,
to
me too.
quickly get through it. So yeah, maybe that does class as cheating, okay? But in the too.
But I mean,
yeah. So
did you notice like a jump in difficulty at one point where it really was much harder than the rest, or not?
Yeah, it kind of it did slowly get more challenging, which I thought was really good. But I never got to the stage where I found it was impossible to do. There were a few times I thought, I looked at the jump and I think I can't make that, and I tried it a couple of times and I couldn't make it. So that could have been made so that you knew that you could make it, and it was all about just your jumping skills rather than the uncertainty of the map.
Decision of basically, is this the right way?
So there were a few times close to the top that was the case, and I think that is basically where the map could be improved a lot more. But I like, after I played it again, I challenged myself to do it without quick saving, and then I challenged myself to do it with once I die, I do it without any checkpoints. So yeah, I think there's, on a personal level, there was a lot of fun to be had. But obviously, I can see a few people getting being not as happy. But I'm not sure. I guess it was just
it's a mechanic that you had to be good at.
Yeah.
And if you are not a jumper, which I'm not, this could be an absolute disaster. So it's like a hit or miss. It could be really fun for you or not. So minimalistically, yeah, it was just jumping. It really was. But I think it was too dependent on your ability. Okay. All right. Next one is
Fragged.
Fragged, yeah. I'm sorry, Frag, but I did not enjoy this. I was intrigued by the beginning of Half-Life 2. Yeah, okay, this could be kind of cool. This could be fun. What you're gonna get me to do here? You get into the main hall where it all began. Yeah, great. And then you've got these blocks that you they flash. And it's like, is this a code? Do I need to do something with this? Do I need to interact with it in some way? Do I need to remember what it does, what it looks like? And you don't. And I don't know if it was just like trying to introduce the ideas, or it was trying to say that you're about to move on to a new section. But I didn't get it. Did you?
Well, I didn't get it because there isn't anything to get, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
You kind of
okay,
yeah, I was looking at them and thinking, I need to remember this pattern or something because I'm going to need it later to input some code, and nothing came of it. I mean, in the first or in the area when you're at the train station, it's actually easy to break the map where you get to the doors and you open them up and it's just blackness inside and it looks a bit strange. If you walk through but then walk back through and close them, then they just shut you in.
Oh, right, okay.
And yeah, but then when you get to the jumping, or if you want to call it a jumping puzzle, I'm not entirely sure if it could be classed as that because most of it was just walking on to the next point. It wasn't fun or challenging at all.
No, it was frustrating because they took a while to come. Maybe if you could see them coming up from much further back, you know, that might be quite nice. So yeah, and then when you do get through there, you get into a bunch of rooms. I'm sort of trying to get there now. You get into a bunch of rooms that it's not clear what you're supposed to be pressing, and I think this might be a case of this was Frag's first entry. And there's little doubt he has technical ability, but whether it's the sort of type of theme that suits him, you know, this theme might have suited Migga really well because Migga's sort of good at just putting weird stuff in.
Yeah.
But maybe Frag has spent all his time building stuff that's supposed to look real, that's supposed to, you know, be really well lit and look like somewhere real. That this idea of his just didn't work for him. I don't know. But I didn't particularly enjoy it, and I died a few times on this jumping section at the beginning. It didn't really add anything to what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think if there was more like, you know, to make it a clear puzzle, even if you're wanting to go for that kind of, how should I put this, weird setup to a map, I think still having these, you know, puzzles where it's logical that you can complete it instead of just randomly pushing a floating block at the side, then that would have definitely made it well. It would have made it better. It would have given it some more character instead of the kind of, you know, after playing the map, you're like, I have no idea what I've just done.
No, exactly.
You know, you don't know what
I think he tried to do too many things. You've got the beginning with the Half-Life, you've got the jumping to get to the white rooms. Within the white rooms, we had some of these puzzles. If it had just started with the white puzzle and it was just pick up a block, put it into one place, it moves you on to the next room, I would have been okay with that. I would have enjoyed it much more than I did with these flashing blocks that you click and it jumps you to something else. I think he was confused about what he was trying to do, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then that brings us on to the bonus map, which we won't spend too long because it's not part of our, you know, judging. But I really enjoyed it. Was it my favourite map? I'm not sure. But it did a good job of keeping things simple. You just fired a button and black blocks appear and you use them to find out where to go. It's such a simple mechanic.
I'm not entirely sure it was taught too well because I was spent ages at the first bit where it says use your pen shooting that block, going, come on, and then it eventually dawned on me that you had to shoot around you and all that. But after that, it was yeah, it was good how you kind of made the path, and I think there was a point where it said jump, and then you jumped, and then you died.
Yeah, because it actually said don't jump, but you didn't see that until you clicked like all of the rest of the things. So that was quite clever. It's a little bit annoying.
Yeah, I think it was actually annoying. I think it's just it was misleading, but then it was in the humorous sense where you did read there, don't jump, and then you're like, ah, haha, yeah, that was
you caught me.
Yeah,
exactly.
You caught me out there. So it wasn't like, you know, super bad.
Yeah, I don't think I would want to play a whole mod like this.
No.
And I'm not sure that has to be the criteria for a winning map. But if there was something that that you could extend, then maybe that would be, you know, better. But it was clever. It was clever, and I'm glad that Klems decided that he wanted to find the time to make something extra, because I did actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right then, so here comes the hard part.
Yes.
Now we only need to choose one winner. There's only one prize, So we don't need to do them in order. We just need to choose a winner.
And this is going to be really difficult.
Yeah. Initially, I had Antichamber as my choice, but upon the second play, or second and third, this is the third play now. Upon the third play, I'm gonna take that back. I'm glad I sort of didn't vote already, because I think that it did too much. It could have just done the mechanic of not having the, the time going down. I'm torn between contrast, warp, and Nova Perspektive. And before you give your input, I'm not sure I'm going to choose Nova Perspektive, because it's a great mechanic, but was it minimalistic? I don't know, Mia, maybe. What do you think? We should.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I've managed to get it down to about 5 maps that I think could be, that are definitely up there, and mine would be contrast, color cues, cluster, all the C's, and I put Nova Perspektive in, and abstraction I've got down here.
Okay, abstraction. Yeah, abstraction was good. This was the blue balls.
Yes, abstract. Yeah, because that one was, obviously had these cool gameplay mechanics and a cool style, so it was fun and had a good minimalism theme. So that's kind of why that's in there. Color cues by Niker was obviously, again, it's similar to abstraction, where it's got the cool minimalism theme and the mechanics, and obviously where it fell was kind of at the end with the Red Room. That was where it fell.
Not just.
Sorry, carry on. Carry on.
You're right at the end. Not just with the red on red, which was, I suppose, his design choice, but also to do with the fact that it didn't make sense with regard to getting there and then the box disappears, and getting there and then the box disappears, and the enemies reappearing. I could have lived with the red on red. I could have lived with that, but because it didn't seem to make sense that they just suddenly appeared out of nowhere, it wouldn't be my choice as a winner. So we both have Nova Perspektive as one of our choices. Having said that, though, I mean, I do like contrast. I do. I think we'd get a lot of grief if we chose contrast as a winner, because I think people would be thinking that it needed to be cleverer or visually more interesting. But I don't know. You don't want to put warp, do you? You don't like warp.
No. I mean, I would like to play it again and break down in my head exactly what's going on, but it's just that I think that the combat section, especially, I mean, I don't know if I was playing on hard and you were playing on medium or whatever. I don't know if that affects it at all, and I'm not sure how any of that works, but
yeah, that could be.
I don't think, even then, I still don't think it's a winner, if you know what I mean.
All right,
it's
okay.
Definitely not. Yeah.
So, I don't think color cues is a winner. Abstraction maybe, because it did things, in a very simple way. And I think that Nova Perspektive could be a winner as well. What other choices did you have?
The last one I had was cluster, which was the jumping puzzles. But as we kind of discussed, it really just depends on your ability, or relies too heavily on the player's ability. So I think we'll drop that one.
Yeah, I think that would need to be taken out, simply because if you're terrible at jumping, then you don't get it.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't mention was the loss. I mean, it's sort of going up in my estimation each time I play it, but it didn't have enough interaction, in my opinion. And you could argue that maybe I didn't say that it had to have enough interaction. I don't know.
It's not so much that it needed interaction, it's more it just needed that extra kick, that extra, whether it be, because I mean, there's a few games out there that are like, I can't remember what that one was, it could have been Silent Hill or something, and it's something that they use where you go around in a circle and it's the same loop, but something changes and you go around again and then something creepy happens, and it's not so much at that level, but just more things could have been done to give the player a feeling of uneasiness. And I mean, I'm not sure obviously if Blue was wanting to go in that kind of creepy direction, making the map have that scary emotion.
feel. Yeah.
But it's that's probably what I'd say is that it needed slightly more. Yeah.
All right, so we need to decide. I mean, if you said to me Nova Perspektive, and I'd be like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that being a winner. It's a great mechanic. It's a simple mechanic. It's interesting. Visually, it was interesting. It's a winner. Are we agreed?
Well, we probably need to weigh up. I mean, Abstraction's obviously the other one. So I take it you didn't have Abstraction in your top 3, right?
I did not. No.
Right. And you didn't like it because of its room corridor.
No. I mean, there was nothing particular that I didn't like. I mean, you touched the orb, you moved on to a new room. I just feel that Nova Perspektive was much cleverer, and it still fit the theme. I mean, touching the orb and just opened up a new door. I mean, that's all it was. It was touch the orb, open up a new area. It was fun to play and it looked quite nice, but it didn't really get me with, wow, that is so cool. So you want to argue with that, do you?
Well, that's definitely the map. I think we've got to the point that it's a head-to-head between these two, and right. I'm inclined to agree. Like when I played Nova Perspektive, I looked through the thing. It just gave me that feeling that you barely get when playing, a Half-Life 2 map. It's a unique. You're like, this is unique. Not seen this before. This is difficult.
Listen, I'm happy to say let's call it a draw. We'll figure out the prizes. There'll be 2 winners. You chose Abstract. I chose Nova Perspektive. And, that's maybe the problem with only having two judges.
Yeah.
Maybe next time we'll have to have 3.
We're going to have to phone a friend. No.
Yeah, exactly. Let's call it a joint winner, Abstract and Nova Perspektive. Are you happy with that?
Yes. If it means not having this long discussion that could go on for hours about it, because it is really difficult.
We've already been on for an hour and 20. At some point we got to choose. So it seems a fair compromise.
I think so.
All right, good. All right. Well, I would like to thank you for taking the time and effort to speak with me today, but not only today, but to play all the maps and be so conscientious about wanting to choose carefully. And you'll definitely be a judge on the next 50-hour mapping challenge. I'd like to thank all of the entrants, all 23 of them, because there really were 23 or maybe even 24. We had 21 official entries, 22 with Klems, and then we had 2 unofficial entries for Black Mesa and Gold Source, Half-Life 1. So I'd like to thank everybody for entering. Well done to everybody. Even though we sort of maybe dismissed your map in this video, I apologise for that. It wasn't our intention to be rude or negative, but we just needed to move on very quickly. And if you enter any future mapping challenges, you must really think, what is this theme? What are the judges looking for? Any final words, Dolmo?
Well, I just want to thank you for putting on these mapping challenges and to, kind of help, because obviously Half-Life 2 and Half-Life mapping is still popular. There's still people out there who want to do it. There's new people coming in, and they need a platform like Run, Think, Shoot, Live to go on and, play these newly released maps and mods. So thank you.
You're most welcome. So that's it then. So we finished for today. Just to remind you, the joint winners are Abstraction and Nova Perspektive. Thanks for watching, and remember, finishing Half-Life is just the beginning. See ya!
Great.